We are Anka. Stay tuned for updated real news.
Hello, Anka Daily News viewers. How are you? I hope you're all healthy and well. As the Anka Daily News team, we continue to share with you extraordinary developments from the turbulent days of the war. In this period of prolonged Russia-Ukraine conflict, in addition to the news from the fronts, remarkable events are also taking place. Among these, unexpected conflicts among Russian soldiers and military discipline problems reveal another side of the war. The latest incident in the Russian army dramatically reveals the effects of war psychology on soldiers. The fact that Russia is facing problems of military discipline allows us to see more clearly the impact of the tensions and pressures experienced during the war by the soldiers. In recent times, events behind the front lines have become as salient as the fighting on the ground. This is a sign that the war is intensifying not only on the front lines but also on the psychological front. In particular, one Russian soldier's act of violence against his fellow soldiers illustrates the fragile state of the military. This soldier, who had lost his sanity under the heavy pressure of war, attacked his own unit with weapons and explosives. What happened behind the scenes and how this kind of conflict damages trust within the army is quite striking. The reasons behind this unexpected internal conflict between soldiers clearly show the effects of the intense pressure of war on the military. As we share more details about the conflicts and consequences of the war, not only on the front lines but also in the military units, we'll examine together how such incidents, which are increasing in the Russian army, create a fracture. Let's take a look together. Before we get into our report, a quick reminder. The Anka Daily News team is definitely real. None of my team members or me are artificial intelligence. Even though AI is extremely advanced, it's still not as good as us. By the way, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. We do read all the comments you leave on our videos. Please continue to share your ideas about our content. Tell us in the comments what content you'd like to see on the Anka Daily News channel. And now let us begin if you're ready. Anka Daily News reports. The violence of war erupts not only between opposing armies but also between soldiers on the same side. We'll share the details with you now. Russia's unusual strategies to lighten the burden of the war and fill the ranks on the Ukrainian front are raising many questions about the course of the war. The Kremlin's deployment of convicted soldiers from prisons to the front lines has caused serious unrest in the internal structure of the army. Many of these soldiers have been convicted of serious crimes and assigned to special battalions known as Storm Z. These battalions are made up of individuals who have no previous experience of fighting alongside regular soldiers of the Russian army and are sent to points of high strategic importance during wartime. However, the chaos created by these criminals in the new environment is dragging the Russian army into unexpected internal conflicts. The latest incident has revealed the grave extent to which this situation has reached. A convicted soldier named Maxim Fedorchenko committed a horrific massacre by projecting the violence of war onto his own unit. Fedorchenko, who had been assigned to Poholi in Ukraine's Zaporizhia region after spending years in a prison in Ussuriezk, launched a deadly attack against his unit with the weapons he was carrying. Using an RDG-5 grenade and an AK-47 rifle, Fedorchenko terrorized his unit. The fact that the convicted soldier attacked his comrades without warning and opened fire on his unit speaks volumes about the negative effects of the psychological pressure of war on the soldiers in the army. The convict, who agreed to fight in these battalions in the hope of surviving in a death-defying way, attacked his own troops as they faced the brutality of war, creating chaos within the army. The Kremlin's unusual recruitment strategy is causing unexpected problems on the battlefield. Serial killers, criminals, and dangerous prisoners are being sent to the front lines, dealing a major blow to the morale of the Russian army. In particular, prisoner units integrated into regular army battalions, unaccustomed to the harsh conditions of war and lacking discipline, are sometimes left on the front line facing death. This latest attack by Maxim Fedorchenko jeopardized the safety of the other soldiers on the front line and exposed the internal indiscipline in the Russian army. Promises that convicted soldiers will be pardoned if they agree to fight in penal battalions create both pressure and distrust within the army. However, some of these prisoners sent to the front line in the hope of being pardoned don't hesitate to turn their weapons on their own comrades. The knowledge that these soldiers fighting at the front line of the war will be rewarded with freedom if they survive turns them into undisciplined and dangerous fighting machines. This strategy allows prisoners in the penal battalions to commit dangerous acts without orders or warnings, creating a security vulnerability for the rest of the unit. Maxim Fedorchenko's massacre in Polohi also created a kind of chaos behind the front lines of the war. Fedorchenko, who fled the scene with his weapons after the attack on his unit, has now disappeared. This situation brings to the fore once again the vulnerabilities in the Russian army. The military's controversial policy of sending convicted soldiers to the front lines has created a great deal of tension among the Russian soldiers and commanding officers. This incident shows that convicted soldiers can pose a threat not only to the enemy, but also to their own troops. But what kind of psychological dynamics lies behind such an attack? How does the pressure of war trigger indiscipline in prisoner soldiers? We'll examine in detail how the freedom promised to prisoners shapes their behavior in the army. We'll also examine how Russia's strategy of supporting the front line with convicts recruited from prisons creates security and discipline problems within the army, and what impact it has on other soldiers in the field. These methods, which the Russian army has resorted to due to the lack of available human resources, actually increase the psychological pressure on the soldiers caused by the heavy burden of war. Such incidents have a huge impact not only on Russian soldiers but also on commanders and unit morale. The ruthless nature of war requires soldiers on the front line to fight not only against the enemy, but also within themselves. These developments raise serious questions about the future sustainability of the Kremlin's current recruitment strategies. What do you think? What do you think the consequences of this act of insanity by a Russian soldier will be? What do you think about the problems faced by Russian soldiers? Let us know in the comments. We read and care about your points of view.